I'll never forget the sound of that zipper. It was this sharp, metallic zip that sliced through the quiet of our bedroom, and in that instant, I knew something was wrong. I hadn't even opened my eyes yet. I'd been half asleep, Jenna beside me, her body warm against mine under the covers, until she slipped out of bed. Normally, when Jenna got up early for work, she was like a shadow, quiet, careful not to wake me. But that morning, her movements were rushed, clumsy even. I heard her fling open the closet door, her breath quickening. Then that zipper. I propped myself up on one elbow, still groggy, but something felt off. Her back was to me, her shoulders tense as she shoved something into a small black duffel bag. It wasn't her usual gym bag, the one that sat in the corner with her running shoes and leggings. No, this bag was different, sleek, barely used. It struck me as odd. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice still thick from sleep. She froze for a split second, but then turned to face me with that too bright smile. "Oh, I've got an early meeting, babe. Didn't want to wake you." That was her answer. Simple, casual. But there was something about the way she said it that felt off. And that smile. Too quick. Too fake. Before I could press further, she was already walking out, bag in hand, her heels clicking against the hardwood. I lay there, staring at the door, a strange knot tightening in my chest. I didn't know it then, but that was the first crack in the dam. It wasn't the kind of morning where you think your life's about to implode, but it had started. And like all disasters, you never see the full destruction coming until it's too late. Later that evening, I was at home, mindlessly flipping through channels, when I remembered the duffel bag. It had bugged me all day. She came back from her meeting acting like nothing was off, same old Jenna, but my gut told me different. I've learned over the years that your gut doesn't lie. So, I decided to follow it. I went to the hall closet where she usually dumped her stuff after work. The black duffel was there, crammed in behind some coats. I unzipped it and found exactly what I wasn't expecting. Lingerie. Not the usual stuff she wore for me, but something new, expensive, and still smelling like her perfume. There was no reason for her to pack that for a work meeting. And then, buried under that, I saw a man's watch. Black leather strap, silver face, definitely not mine. I sat there, staring at it, my brain playing catch-up. My first instinct was to make excuses. Maybe she bought the watch for me as a surprise? Or maybe she borrowed it from someone at work for some reason? But no. The reality was staring me in the face, and I couldn't dodge it anymore. I stood up, numb, and walked back into the living room. The TV was still playing something stupid, and for a moment, I felt like throwing the watch right through the screen. But I didn't. Instead, I put it on the coffee table, sat down, and stared at it like it might talk to me, give me answers. Jenna came home an hour later. She walked in with her usual smile, tossed her purse on the chair, and kissed me on the cheek. She didn't notice the watch sitting there. "How was your day?" she asked, completely normal, like I hadn't just found the thing that confirmed what I didn't want to believe. I didn't answer. I just pointed to the watch. She froze. Eyes widened for a second before she composed herself. I watched her face change, like a mask slipping. She stared at the watch, then back at me. And in that silence, I knew. No excuses. No explanations. She knew I knew. I didn't wait for her to speak. I was already standing, my fists clenched, the adrenaline making my voice shake as I finally let it out. "Whose watch is that, Jenna?" Her mouth opened, then shut. She was thinking, I could see it, scrambling for something to say. But there wasn't any explanation she could give that would make this okay. "Why don't you start by telling me who the hell it belongs to?" I stepped closer, holding the watch out like evidence in a trial. Her eyes flickered, and she crossed her arms. It's not what you think, okay? Really? So, explain it." She sighed, running her hand through her hair, avoiding my gaze. He's just a friend. We were hanging out after work. That's all." "Hanging out?" My voice rose. I was practically shouting now. Hanging out in lingerie, Jenna? You've got to be kidding me. She flinched but didn't back down. I didn't mean for it to happen, alright? It just. I didn't plan this. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Didn't plan it? What, you accidentally packed your best lingerie and hung out with some guy? How long has this been going on? She stayed quiet, her arms tightening around herself. I took another step, my anger building like a pressure cooker, ready to blow. How long? A few months, she whispered. Months? I felt like someone had just punched me in the gut. I could barely breathe. My hands were shaking, and for a second, I wanted to throw the damn watch at her. I wanted to yell, break something, make her feel the same pain I was feeling. Why? It came out quieter than I expected. Why him? Why, this? She didn't answer right away, just stared at the floor. Then, with this deadpan look, she said, I don't know. I wasn't happy, okay? Things have been off between us for a while, and I don't know. He made me feel wanted. Wanted. The word hung in the air, making my blood boil. I took a deep breath, trying to keep control, but it wasn't working. So, instead of talking to me, you just go and screw someone else? That's your solution? Don't act like this is all my fault, she snapped. You've been distant, too. You think I haven't noticed? We're not the same as we used to be, and you know it. You think cheating fixes that? I roared, stepping so close that she backed up against the wall. My fists were still clenched, but I kept them at my sides. I didn't trust myself. You think this is how you deal with problems in a marriage? She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't want to hear it. I turned away, heading for the door. I needed space before I did something I couldn't take back. I slammed the door behind me, the sound ringing in my ears as I walked out into the night, heart racing, my mind in chaos. The anger didn't fade. It only grew as I drove around aimlessly, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. All I could think about was how she had betrayed me, how she'd thrown everything we built in my face, over some guy who made her feel wanted. That word made my blood boil every time I heard it in my head. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. She had to feel what I was feeling, no, worse. If she wanted to destroy what we had, then I was going to make sure she felt the weight of that decision. She wasn't just going to walk away with some weak apology. I was going to make sure she regretted every second of it. The first thing I did was cut off her access to all our joint accounts. I pulled over into a parking lot, grabbed my phone, and locked her out of everything: credit cards, savings, even the grocery account. She wouldn't even be able to buy a cup of coffee without coming to me first. Let her try and explain that to her little friend. Next, I drove to the house, grabbed her laptop, and opened her email. She used the same password for everything, so it didn't take me long to get into her personal accounts. I was half expecting to find something more, another message or some kind of secret trail she had hidden, but nothing jumped out. Still, I wasn't done. I deleted all the contacts from her phone: family, friends, work, gone. She was going to have to start from scratch. I wanted her to feel isolated, just like I felt when I realized she had been lying to me for months. I knew it was petty, but I didn't care. She deserved every second of it. Then I went after her car. She loved that car, a brand new one she had picked out herself, acting like it was the highlight of her year when we bought it. I grabbed a spare key and headed for the garage. I didn't smash the windows or flatten the tires, though. No, that would be too easy. Instead, I drove it 3 blocks away and left it parked in front of a tow-away zone. I knew she'd panic when it was gone, but she wouldn't have a clue where to start looking. By the time I got back home, it was late, but I wasn't done yet. I took down every picture of us together from the house. I tossed them all into a box and shoved it into the basement. The house looked empty, cold, just like how I felt. Jenna came home an hour later, looking wrecked. She walked into the house, probably expecting to find me still stewing, but what she found was something else entirely. No pictures, her phone was dead, and her car missing. What the hell? She looked around, confused. Where's my car? I didn't answer. I just sat on the couch, watching her scramble, watching her confusion turn into panic. Her phone buzzed, but when she grabbed it, she saw the contacts list was empty. Are you serious? Did you? She was trying to stay calm, but her voice cracked and I could see the fear in her eyes. Good. Let her feel it. You think you can just screw around and I'll let it slide? I finally said. You think there are no consequences for what you did? You've gone crazy. Where's my car, Nick? What did you do with it? She was near tears now. I didn't answer. I just let her stand there, freaking out, the weight of everything crashing down on her. I watched, and for the first time since all of this started, I felt in control. Jenna stood there, staring at me like I was a stranger. Her eyes darted around, still searching for some explanation that didn't exist. The car, her phone, the bank accounts, it all hit her at once. And yet, I didn't feel any better. Watching her fall apart didn't bring me the satisfaction I thought it would. She finally sat down across from me, hands shaking. Nick, this isn't going to fix anything. I just stared at her. You think I'm trying to fix something? Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, okay? I never meant for any of this to happen. I felt this cold laugh slip out. You never meant for this to happen? What does that even mean, Jenna? You accidentally packed lingerie and slept with another guy? Over months? She winced but didn't look away. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I don't even know why I did it. You don't know? I shook my head. Don't give me that. You knew what you were doing every time you met him, every time you lied to me. You chose this. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I didn't choose him over you. It wasn't about that. I was just, I don't know, lonely. I felt invisible. I leaned forward, my voice low, steady. You felt invisible? And your solution was to betray me? Her words felt hollow, like she didn't even believe them herself. I should have talked to you. I know that. But we've both been so checked out, Nick. You've barely been around. It's like you don't see me anymore. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. Don't try to make this about me. I've been here. Every day, Jenna. I was right here, and instead of fixing what was wrong, you found someone else to fill whatever hole you thought was missing. She was silent for a moment, her eyes dropping to the floor. Do you even want to try to fix this? She asked quietly. That question hit me harder than I expected. Because at that moment, I realized I didn't have an answer. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand why she thought we could ever fix something like this. But another part, the part that wasn't blinded by rage, was just tired. I don't know if there's anything left to fix, I said slowly, the truth of it sinking in as the words left my mouth. You broke something that can't be undone. She started crying, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the urge to comfort her. I didn't feel anything, really, except the dull ache that settled in once the anger had burned out. So, what now? She asked between sobs. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, she didn't feel like my wife anymore. She was someone who had made her choice, and I had to make mine. I'm done, Jenna, I said, my voice calm but final. I don't want to do this anymore. You've destroyed everything, and there's no going back. Her face crumbled as she realized what that meant. Nick, please. I'm filing for divorce. You can stay here until you find a place, but I want you gone. I don't hate you, but I can't stay with you. She didn't argue. She just nodded, like she knew it was coming. The fight had drained out of both of us. There was nothing left to save. In that moment, I felt a strange kind of relief. Like the weight of everything had finally been lifted. Not because I was happy with how things turned out, but because it was over. and that was all I needed. Jenna packed her things over the next few days. She didn't say much, and neither did I. There wasn't anything left to say. I'd already filed the papers, and I made it clear I wasn't going to change my mind. She knew she couldn't fix this, and honestly, I didn't want her to try. The house was quieter than I expected once she was gone. You'd think it would feel empty, but instead, it felt cleaner, lighter. I wasn't carrying around that constant anger anymore, and for the first time in weeks, I could think straight. I had a lot of time to sit with what happened. The shock had worn off, the rage too. What was left was something I couldn't quite name at first. Maybe it was sadness, maybe relief, maybe just exhaustion. But as I sorted through it, I realized I didn't feel like a victim anymore. Jenna made her choice, and now I was making mine. Revenge felt good in the moment, but it wasn't going to be the thing that got me through this. She'd have to live with what she did, but I didn't want to be stuck there. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life defined by the worst thing that had ever happened to me. One night, about a week after she left, she called me. It was strange hearing her voice, but it wasn't emotional or dramatic. She sounded tired, like she had finally run out of things to say. I signed the divorce papers, she said quietly. You should get them tomorrow. Okay, I replied, keeping my tone flat. I didn't need to rehash anything. It was done. There was a pause on the other end, and then she said, I'm really sorry, Nick. For a second, I almost responded with the same tired line I'd been throwing around in my head for days, something about how her apology didn't change anything, how it didn't undo what she did. But then I realized I didn't care. I wasn't looking for closure from her. I wasn't looking for anything. I know, I said simply. Good luck with everything. That was it. No shouting, no breakdown, no dramatic goodbyes. Just the quiet understanding that we were over. And I felt okay. Not happy, but okay. Looking back on it now, I've realized that it wasn't the cheating that destroyed me. It was the trust, the part of me that believed we were solid, untouchable. That's what hurt the most. But now that the dust has settled, I've also realized that I'm going to be all right. I'll move on, just like she will. There's no rush, no need for some grand plan. I'm not sure what's next for me, but I know it's going to be different. Maybe that's the only thing I've really learned from all of this. Things change. People change. You can't control it, no matter how hard you try. What you can do is decide what you're going to do about it. And right now, I'm choosing to let go.